Hey guys, it's Emkara and I'm really a mermaid. Okay, so today's video is going to be about the show H20 Just Add Water. So this is basically a video about why I think H2O is a good show. So spoilers ahead if you haven't watched the show, since I'll be talking about the show in depth. But okay, so the plot of the show is that it takes place in Australia, and these three girls, Emma, Ricky, and Cleo, end up going to this place called Mako Island, and when they go there, they end up turning into mermaids. So anytime they get water on them, like even if it's just like one drop of water, they end up turning into mermaids. So basically, it's about like how they have like this double life, like when they're in the water, when they're at the beach, like they're a mermaid, and then when they're just out and about like in the normal human world, they're humans. So it's basically them trying to like balance being like a mermaid and like a normal girl. So Ricky, Emma, and Cleo are the protagonists. So Ricky, she's kind of got like a fiery spirit. She's like a little bit of a rebel. She's kind of like one of those girls who marches to the beat of like her own drum. And you can kind of see that in her fashion too, because she wears a lot of like red and black. And she also wears like camouflage print from time to time. I feel like her style out of like all the characters still holds up pretty well to now, because I feel like a lot of people still wear like camouflage, and red and black have always been popular colors. So I feel like her style in a way is kind of like the least cringy, so to speak, out of all of the girls, if that makes sense. Like her style is still pretty relevant to now, if that makes sense. Okay, so Cleo, she is more shy into herself. She's like a little more introverted and quiet. Um, she gets kind of nervous sometimes. I think it's possible now that I'm older that maybe her character possibly suffered with anxiety a little bit, because she did tend to like fidget a lot and just kind of get nervous and look down and stuff. So it's possible maybe her character had a little bit of anxiety as well. And she tends to wear like more kind of like neutral tones. Like her character kind of wears like neutral tones, but she would also wear like pops of color, like purple. She wears purple quite a bit like throughout the whole show. So yeah, I think her character probably goes through like the biggest change out of all the girls, because like towards the end of the show, she's a lot more like outgoing, and she takes more risks, and she's not as quiet into herself. Like if you've seen the third season, you see how like she really is more of like a go-getter. And like in the third season, when all the stuff that happens with the water happens, because like in the third season, that season's kind of scary, because like in the third season, like the water in the ocean and just like water in general, it literally starts to attack them. Like in the first episode, Ricky like ends up getting swallowed by the water and like getting attacked by it. And then there's also another scene where this like, it's like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like almost like a bolt of water, like I guess almost like a water dagger. It's almost like this water dagger kind of comes out of the sink, and it tries to like hit Cleo. Like it tries to knock her down and hit her. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I'd say Cleo's probably like my favorite character, because I like how she really evolves and she grows, and she, really just blossoms and becomes more like well-rounded, I guess, if that makes sense. And then lastly, Emma. So Emma, she is definitely like the leader of the group. She is very much like a go-getter. Like she knows what she wants and she goes for it. She's very organized, very detail-oriented. Sometimes she can be a little bit controlling though, and the other girls don't like that. Like when it comes to them being mermaids, she's like very controlling about that. Like, don't tell anyone, you can't tell anyone. Like she even tells the girls like, you can't tell your family. Like this has to stay between all of us, which they don't really like, because another character, Lewis, which is like a childhood friend of Cleo's, like she wants to tell him at first, but because Emma's like, you can't tell anyone, she doesn't. But he ends up finding out anyway, and he ends up helping them a lot throughout the show. So yeah, and Emma's wardrobe, her wardrobe, she wears like a lot of blue and white, and she also kind of wears like khaki sometimes, like khaki capris or like denim skirts. But yeah, blue is definitely her color. She wears a lot of blue. So I say she wears like probably the most like oceany kind of colors out of all the girls. And like, yeah, her style is like very simple, I would say. Like blue and neutrals and khakis would be like her go-to style. All right, so Lewis. Lewis is, like I said, he's Cleo's childhood friend, and like the other girls also know him as well, but Cleo's like the closest to him since they've known each other the longest. So Lewis gets called a nerd a lot throughout the show, and yeah, he is kind of nerdy, I guess. He's kind of like adorkable. I've seen a lot of fans like describe Lewis as like adorkable. Yeah, so he is kind of nerdy, but I'd say like his knowledge helps them a lot with like trying to figure out how to like balance being mermaids and normal. So Lewis, he's very smart, very inquisitive. He definitely likes to do like tests and experiments and figure out like why things are the way that they are. Yeah, I feel like he's one of those people where it's like he has like a real like thirst for knowledge. Like he wants to know, why things are the way they are, why things happen the way that they do. Like he's one of those people where it's like I want to know. I want the answers. Okay, so Zane, he is definitely like the bad boy of the show. He kind of has ups and downs throughout the show because like sometimes he's like really sweet, he's really good to the girls and to other characters, and then other times he is just so rude and so awful. Zane is rich, so Zane is kind of like spoiled and entitled because of that. He's the kind of character where it's like he never really had to work for anything, so I don't feel like his character really knew what it was like to like earn something because he was just kind of handed everything. So that's kind of why I feel like he's a bit of a bad boy because, when you have everything, you don't know what it's like to, work for things and not be able to afford something, or not be able to say hang out because, you don't have the money to, you don't have the time, maybe if you have like another sibling, because he's an only child. So yeah, but he definitely changes a lot. I'd say he has his good and his bad moments. And he definitely does have like a bit of an ego. He likes to be right. He doesn't really like people like being better than him or upstaging him. He's the kind of person where it's like he wants to be the best, he wants to be right. But him and Ricky, they date kind of on and off throughout the show, and they definitely have an interesting relationship. Like I could see that he really did care for Ricky, but like I said, he does have an ego, so I think his ego gets in the way sometimes. Like there's one situation in season 3 where this newer character named Will, he like challenges Will to this like dive off because Will is a diver. So like Will ends up almost drowning and like dying basically because of his little challenge with Zane. Because like Zane kind of gets Will like really worked up, so then he like jumps in the water without preparing, so then he ends up kind of like losing his breath, and like he literally like he drowns, and he basically starts to drown and almost die, which is like crazy. And like Ricky ends up saving him because he's like, Ricky, I need your help. So she comes, she like gives him like mouth to mouth and like pushes him back up to the surface. So it's like, yeah, Zane definitely, I think, was probably one of the darkest characters in the show. He definitely had a dark side to him. And that was probably the worst thing he did. I'd say that was like the worst thing he did because like Will literally could have died. Even though Will was not my favorite character, that doesn't mean I wanted Will to die. But yeah, that was really intense. That was really wrong what Zane did. So yeah, okay, what other characters? So Miriam, she was only in like season 1 of the show, but she was kind of just like an antagonist. She tended to wear a lot of pink. Yeah, I feel like that is something that wasn't the best about the show, that sometimes characters who are a little more girly tended to be the bad girls. And I do think that is something that's getting better now, that like girls who are more girly aren't always the bad girl in shows. Like we still have a long way to go, but yeah, that's one way I guess you can tell the show's a little dated, because she was like, yeah, she was a little more girly. Like she always had like her hair and makeup done. She wore pink a lot. So now she had like necklaces or rings or stuff gosh, necklaces or like bracelets, rings, whatever. Like she was probably like one of the most like glamorous sort of characters in the show. But yeah, she was just kind of a bully. She would just make like rude comments to the girls and to other people. She would like roll her eyes. Yeah, she just was, she was just one of those people who kind of just like to make fun of people and be like, you're weird and stuff. Yeah, she was just kind of meant to be like a mean girl. Like that's really all Miriam was. She was just a mean girl. A mean girl who just liked to kind of be like, ugh, you're weird. All right, other characters. Nate. Okay, so Nate, he was definitely meant to be like an annoying, immature character. Because I feel like any teenage show that exists always has a character like Nate. So Nate is very obnoxious, loud, and he doesn't always, he's not really the best with rejection. Like, sometimes he'll try to like come on to the girls and like flirt with them, and they'll be like, no thank you, and he's like, oh, so you're interested. Like, he was one of those people where it's like he did not know how to take a hint. He was very annoying, Nate. Yeah, I didn't really care for Nate, but that's the point. Like, Nate was meant to be like an annoying, immature teenage boy. So like, that's really all I can say about them. He was obnoxious, and he didn't know how to take a hint, and he was loud sometimes too. Yeah, Nate, he was something. Who else? Okay, so Bella is a new character that is introduced in season 3. So in season 3, the actress who played Emma, Claire Holt, she ended up leaving the show to film a movie. So Bella, who was played by Indiana Evans, my goodness, I messed up her name. Okay, so Indiana Evans played Bella Hartley. I got the name switched there. Okay, so Bella is a new mermaid that comes into the 3rd season. So they have like their little trio of mermaids. And so yeah, Bella, she's like a singer. Bella, I don't really feel like Bella had much of a personality, sadly. I don't want to say she was boring, but I can't really say I knew that much about her. She mentioned something, I think, about her parents being in the hotel business, so they moved around a lot. She became a mermaid when she was about 9 years old in Ireland, so she did not become a mermaid in Australia like the other girls. She became a mermaid in a different part of the world. But yeah, I'd say Bella, she was very sweet. She wore a lot of white, and yeah, I feel like white was a color she wore a lot. And she wore like other pops of color sometimes. Sometimes she would wear like coral or blue. But yeah, I would say she probably wore white a lot, which makes sense because she is a very pretty girl. And I do feel like they wanted her character to be sort of innocent in a way. Like, she's not a threat. She's not here to hurt anyone. She's just here to be like part of the show. You know what I mean? So yeah, Bella, she sang. She was part of a band with Nate. And Lewis as well. He was part of the band too. Lewis played the drums. Bella was the singer. And Nate, I think, did keyboards and bass. So yeah, there's really not a lot to say about Bella. Like, she was nice, but I don't feel like they really went into that much depth about her character. Like, she was pretty, she was nice, and she liked to sing. That's really all I could say about Bella. Well, and she also liked Will. Will is another new character that was in season 3. So Will, I don't think most fans really liked Will. I did not really like Will that much, honestly. I mean, sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. So I think Will's problem, why a lot of people didn't like him, was that he could be like very pushy. Like, there were scenes he had with Bella where he was like trying to figure out that she was a mermaid, and she would be like, leave me alone, like, I don't want to talk about this. And he would still keep talking to her and asking her. And it's like, this boy did not understand boundaries. Like, if someone tells you to stop, you stop. And like, he just did not get it. I think that was his big problem. And like, eventually when he does find out she's a mermaid, it wasn't even her choice. He literally threw water on her, and then she ran away and ended up being a mermaid, and she couldn't leave in time for him not to see her. So I feel like that's why a lot of people did not like him, because then later on in the show, he was like, I'm so glad you shared that with me. And it's like, she didn't share that with you. You dumped water on her, and she had nowhere to go. So she was forced to turn into a mermaid in front of you. And yeah, I mean, but yeah, that was so wrong. Like, I would be so mad if someone, like, if I were in that position and someone did that to me, I would be so mad. I don't think I would talk to him again, honestly. Like, I would not have dated Will. I would not have wanted Will near me at all. Like, I would be like, get away from me. You do not respect my boundaries, and you do not know how to take no for an answer. So back off. I would be like, back off, Will. Okay, and then Yeah, he was also very athletic. He was a diver. I think he was even trying to like go to the Olympics or some national competition. I can't remember exactly, but I remember he had this one big competition where he won. And I guess if he had kept continuing diving because he like quit after that competition, I guess he could have been some kind of Olympian or something like that. But yeah, he was a diver, and he really loved being in the water and just like exploring the sea. So I feel like that's why him and Bella got along, because, you know, she's a mermaid, he's a diver, so they can swim together. All right, another character that was introduced in season 3 was Sophie. So Sophie is Will's sister. She was definitely a villain, obviously, if you've watched the show. She was very conniving, very manipulative. She knew how to get what she wanted. Like Will, she did not take no for an answer. Yeah, I did not like her because of how manipulative she was. Like, she would basically set other people up to fail so then she would look good. And I don't like people like that, because it's like you didn't win or whatever because you were the best. You win because you set everyone else up to fail so then you would look like infinitely better than everyone else. So yeah, I didn't really care for Sophie. But of course, we're not supposed to like Sophie anyway. So Sophie did a good job of being annoying. I don't and honestly, I don't feel like she was really much of a threat to the other girls. I'd say she was like the biggest threat to Bella, because she did not like Bella at all. She was always like, stay away from Will. I don't like you being near him. You're not a good influence. Like, she did not like Bella at all, but she didn't really care for, like, Ricky and Cleo. I don't think she really had any bad blood to them. But sometimes she would say that she did notice that she felt like the girls had a secret. But, like, other than that, she didn't really go into it. And then, oh, also another thing she did that was awful, probably one of the, like, worst things to happen on the show, is she ended up going to, like, Mako Island, and basically, like, she almost destroyed the island. Because, like, the girls all have like these little necklaces they wear. So like in the first 2 seasons, they have a locket that they wear. And then in the 3rd season, they have like this little crystal gem necklace. And like the little gem is like a gem from the island. You know, like they're very powerful. So she ends up like cutting like, I guess, holes in the rocks there and basically taking all of the gems. So like she almost causes the island to die. Like the island almost like dies off eventually because of what she did. I mean, that ended up not happening because of like the finale. If you watch the finale, you'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was like, that really showed how money hungry she was, because yeah, she was kind of money hungry. I almost forgot to mention that. But yeah, like that's the reason why she went to Mako Island, because she really liked the crystals that the girls wore. So she thought, if I can find these, then I can like sell them and make a lot of money. They're obviously very rare, very valuable. So that's exactly what she did. She went in there. She had help. She had some other people help her. And Zane was one of the people who helped her, which is like, again, Zane, I'm telling you, he's a bad boy. So Zane helped her as well as this other guy who was like, I think some kind of, he was like an archaeologist or zoologist. I can't remember. He did something with like rocks. I think he might have been an archaeologist. So he like helped her basically like cut like the craters and like take all of the crystals out. And like, yeah, when she did that, the island almost died, because like those crystals essentially kept the island alive. So like the island so she almost killed off an island. So she was pretty awful. Okay, other characters. Okay, so Charlotte. Charlotte was the villain in season 2. So Charlotte, she had red hair. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that all the villains on this show, most of the villains, well, okay, so all of the girl villains have red hair. So Charlotte, she had red hair. And Sophie, she also had red hair. Okay, so Charlotte had red hair. She was the villain of the show. So basically, Charlotte started to date Lewis after Cleo and Lewis broke up. And since Cleo and Lewis were still friends after the breakup, they would still hang out and spend time together sometimes. And Charlotte got jealous of that. She didn't like that they would still hang out and do things together. That really bothered her. Like, she just really didn't like the girls. Like some other characters in the show, she also suspected that the girls had a secret and were hiding something. She eventually does find out the girls are mermaids, and then she finds out how to become a mermaid herself. And she does, and she ends up getting all of the powers that the girls have. Yeah, and Charlotte, she really takes advantage like of the powers that she has. Like she almost hurts the girls a few times. Well, actually she did hurt the girls one time because there was this one time she used like her wind powers to like lift the girls like into the air, and then she just dropped them. So they were like floating in the air and then they fell to the ground. And then I think later Ricky mentioned something about having like scrapes and bruises on her arms and stuff from that. So yeah, Charlotte, she was someone you did not want to mess with. I feel like Charlotte was kind of one of those people where it's like if she gets her way, she's happy. If she's not, then it's like watch out. But yeah, Charlotte was definitely like probably the biggest threat to the girls on the show because she just really did not like them being friends with Lewis, and she did not like them spending time with Lewis, and she kind of just she wanted to be like the ultimate queen in a sense. Like she wanted to be like the mermaid with like the most powers and all that, and she kind of just wanted it all. Like she wanted to have Lewis. She wanted to be like the most powerful mermaid. She kind of just wanted to be better than everybody. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about Charlotte. And what I think is also funny about Charlotte being a mermaid is out of everyone, she's a mermaid for the shortest amount of time. She's only a mermaid for 1 month. Like, I can't help but laugh when I think about that because, like, how hilarious. Like, you thought you were going to be this mermaid for so long and you were literally a mermaid for 1 month. So, yeah. Karma. All right, so what else? Okay, so I guess next I will rank the seasons. So I think the best season was season 2. So I think season 2 was the best because in season 1, although season 1 was very good, I think it was a good way to start the show, like introduce the characters, introduce their powers and everything. There still were just, you could tell they still had a little work to do when it came to acting. There were some acting moments that were not the best, and there were just some parts that were a little cringy. And maybe this is also kind of petty, but I think some of their wardrobe was kind of questionable. Like some of the tops that Cleo wore. Like I remember this one top she wore. It was like a strawberry top. And it honestly looked like something a 5-year-old would wear and not a 16-year-old. And like I understand it's a children's show. I understand in children's shows you're going to wear bright colors. You're not just going to wear like all black or whatever. But I don't know. I just thought that shirt was very juvenile. But yeah, anyway, so even though I do think season 1 was good, I don't think it's the best because the acting was still not quite there yet. They still had some kinks to iron out, so to speak. And then also some of the fashion was a little eh. Although I feel like I can kind of forgive the fashion a little because, you know, there's always trends, and the show did come out in like 2006, so it's been a while, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think season 2 was the best because I think just like the stakes were higher. Like they now have this girl, Charlotte, the villain, who's like trying to figure out like, what is your secret? What are you hiding from me? Like, how can I have what you have, you know? So I think that season, it's like the stakes really got raised because it's like now they have someone who's like onto them, trying to figure out what their secret is. And also like they get new powers in the second season, so I think it was cool to see them learn how to use their new powers. Like the first episode of season 2 was like pretty crazy. Like I think the girls basically, yeah, they basically started a storm in the second season in the first episode because like when that season starts, there's a full moon. So in the show, when like there's a full moon, sometimes the girls end up getting like new powers, or like their powers kind of increase. So like say their powers are at like level 10 right now. So a full moon could happen and then their powers could be at like level 15 after that. Like, does that make sense? So yeah, in the first episode, like they get new powers and they end up like starting this huge storm, and Lewis goes missing for a while and they have to find him, and they do eventually find him on the island. But when they find him, he's like kind of scared of them because he's like, you guys hurt me. Like, you know, you were so scary. Like I didn't recognize you because like they were under the spell of like the full moon, and they felt really bad about that because, you know, Lewis is their friend. They would never want to intentionally hurt him. So I feel like them going through that full moon and like having these new powers really showed them that like, wow, like we really have to be careful now, because like we could really hurt people, like we could really cause some damage. And then I think just also, like I said, them having the threat of Charlotte, you know, this villain, watching them trying to figure out like what is your secret. I think it really raised the stakes and elevated the show and made it more interesting, because the first season was more about kind of just them, you know, having these new powers and trying to adapt to now being a mermaid. Like, how do we keep it a secret from everyone? You know, how do we balance like being normal and doing stuff like going to a school dance? So yeah, the first season I think was pretty good, but it was still a little more simple, if that makes sense. Like, they didn't really have huge stakes at that point, except toward the end of the first season. There is this like doctor. Well, she's technically more of a scientist, but she finds out that they're mermaids. So they like trick her into thinking that they aren't mermaids. So then they can like trick her and have her come to Mako Island. So they go into the water and make her think, oh, like we're giving up our powers, we're not mermaids anymore. And like they still are. But at the time they didn't know that, because at the time Lewis told them that if they did that, oh, you won't be mermaids anymore, because, oh, this is a special full moon. So like that's why they did it, because they didn't want Miss Chatham like trying to experiment on them. Oh gosh, I mean, Miss Chatham, I meant Dr. Denman. Okay, so Miss Chatham. Okay, so Miss Chatham is a character that's in season 1, and she's the one who gives them the advice about that. So Miss Chatham basically was like a mermaid in like the 1950s. So she meets the girls and she ends up giving them like advice with like how to deal with their powers, how to deal with the full moon. So yeah, that's basically what happens in that episode. So Miss Chatham tells the girls that this is a special full moon and that you will lose your powers, which is true, but it only happened for like 12 hours. So basically for like 12 hours, they temporarily lost the ability to like be mermaids and have their powers. So they were essentially like normal girls for like 12 hours. And then like the next day they were mermaids again. So basically Miss Chatham tells them, she tells them that if they go into the water, they'll be like normal again. Like the reason she tells them that and leaves out the 12 hours part is because they want to like convince this lady, Dr. Denman, that they're normal now. So that's what they do. They go into the water, they're normal, and then Miss Chatham leaves because it's like, well, you're not mermaids, so I have no use for you. So yeah, that was like Miss Chatham and Lewis's idea. They come up with the idea and they tell the girls. So yeah, that was a pretty smart idea, honestly. Anyway, so yeah, and then, okay, so I'd say season 2 was the best season. And then the next best season was probably season 3, because yeah, in season 3 the stakes are even higher. So season 3, basically the water in Mako Island like starts attacking them. And a lot of people think Will had to do with that, because in season 3 Will goes to Mako Island and it seems like he awakens some sort of like dark energy almost. And after that, like the water starts attacking the girls. I mean, I don't know if it was Will's fault or not. I think it might have been, but at the same time, I don't know. Like what happened might have still happened if he hadn't been there. But I do think it's possible he awakened some sort of dark magic, dark energy, something. Because like, yeah, after he went there, then the water like started attacking them. So I feel like season 3 was the scariest, because it's like the ocean, which was like a second home to them. It's like they couldn't trust the ocean anymore because the water would attack them. So yeah, season 3, I think definitely had like stakes as well, because, you know, they have to be careful of like the nature around them, because it's like it could just turn on them at any point and attack them. So yeah, I feel like season 3, that was like the really big stake, is that the water that used to be part of you, it used to be your friend in a sense, has now turned on you. And I feel like it's also kind of like a, I don't know if I call it a metaphor, but I feel like you could kind of use that season as a way to kind of show like global warming and climate change too. Like if you keep kind of like abusing something, like how in season 3, how Sophie like essentially takes all the magic away from Mako Island, like the island almost dies. So like I feel like that was kind of a almost are imitating life in a sense. Like if you don't take care of the planet, if you don't take care of what's around you, then like it can turn on you. It can end up hurting you instead. You can end up being the victim instead of the thing that you are taking from. So yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was necessarily their intentions with season 3, but I feel like as I've like grown up, I feel like I've noticed that a little more, how I feel like it does kind of subtly mention that in a sense, like especially toward the end of season 3 when Sophie essentially almost kills Mako Island. Like that I think was probably one of the best examples of how like you have to treat the earth well. You can't hurt and abuse the earth because like this is your home. If you abuse your home, you're not going to have a home anymore. Okay, and then I'd have to say last was season 1. Although I don't think season 1 was a bad season, like I mentioned, because they still, you know, they had kinks to get out, and there was still a lot that kind of needed to happen before things kind of got interesting. I think that's why that season wasn't as good. I mean, I do think that season did a good job of introducing all the characters, introducing the powers and how it changes everything, and how they have to like really be careful around water because like one drop of water on their skin and like they're a mermaid. So yeah, I think that season, that was like a good build up season. I think that was a good build up season to the rest of the show. All right, so now I'm going to rank the theme songs. So I think the season 2 theme song was the best because I think that one still holds up to this day. Like I've seen fans say that they really like the season 2 theme song because it's like the first season, it was a little slow. Like the first season isn't bad, but that one does feel a little slower and more dated if I'm going to be honest. But yeah, the season 2 one, it's got like a good tempo to it. It's like a little pop rockish and it's not like too auto-tuned. So yeah, I would say that one's the best because it's still pretty catchy now. Like it still holds up really well now. It's fun, it's catchy, it's got a good beat. Like you can like kind of tap your feet to it. All right, and then the third season, I would rank second. I would rank that one second because that one is also kind of pop rockish as well. Like it has a good tempo to it. It is a little too auto-tuned though. I wish they would have scaled back on the auto-tune because I think they did overdo it with that, but it still is pretty good. But yeah, I would have to say the auto-tune, it was way too much. And then the first one I would have to say is in third place. So like I said, I don't think the first one is necessarily bad, but I do think it was a little slow. I feel like the song should have been a little faster and more upbeat and peppy because like the point of the song is like, I'm a mermaid. I am this magical creature. I can swim. I can have fun. I can do all these incredible things no one else can. So I will say, I think that one I would rank second for like emotion because I think the singer in that one really did a good job of capturing the emotion, the joy that I am a mermaid, I can swim, I have powers, I can do all these incredible things. So I think the singer in that did a really good job of capturing that emotion, the joy, the excitement of like being a mermaid and being able to do all these things. But I just feel like the version of that one, it's just a little too slow. It like if they had just sped it up a little bit more, I think it would have made the song more fun and upbeat. So yeah, I think, and yeah, also with emotion. So I think the second one was really good with emotion. So I think, so okay, let's see. So honestly, if I do a ranking on the emotion, okay, so first place would be season 1. So yeah, I would say season 1, that singer captured the emotion of the song the best, like the joy and the excitement of being a mermaid. Season 2, I would say, was number 2. I think that singer did pretty well as well, but I do think the auto-tune did kind of cover up her emotion a little bit, if that makes sense. And I'd say season 3 was the worst because that one is just so auto-tuned. Okay, so now I'm going to explain the powers that each girl had. So Charlotte already mentioned Charlotte had all their powers. So I guess I'll get back to her when I'm done with the rest of the girls. So Ricky, she had like fire powers. So she could create fire and lightning. And then also, when she did like this, she would create steam. So I think her powers were very useful, because if she ever turned into a mermaid, she could just steam dry herself and then she would be a human again. So she would do like this, and then like steam would come all around her, and then she would be dry and she'd be a human. So basically that was like the first power she had, was like being able to like create steam. And then as the show evolved and like they had the full moon and everything, she was able to create like lightning, and she was able to create fire. So those were her powers. Emma, this was like how she did her power, like this, like she just kind of held her hand out like stop, freeze. So Emma could freeze things. So basically Emma could freeze things, and she could also create snow. And I believe that's all she could do really with her powers. So yeah, I think Ricky probably had the most powers out of all the girls, but the other girls were very powerful too. Yeah, and then Cleo could basically move water. So she could like move and bend the water and like change the structure of it. I can't really do how she did her hand very well. I'll try to put like a little gif of her or whatever of her doing the power. I can't really do my hand like she did it. But yeah, so she could basically like, yeah, change like the structure of water and like move water around. And then she could also like create wind. She could create like really powerful wind. So those were basically her powers. And then Charlotte basically had all the powers that the girls had. Okay, so in this part, I'm going to talk about some of the relationships that the girls had in the show. So in season 1, Emma had a crush on this guy named Byron. Byron was a swimmer. So basically, before Emma became a mermaid, she used to be a swimmer. She was on the swim team, but after she became a mermaid, she had to quit because, you know, obvious. If she went in the water, she went in the pool, she would be a mermaid. So mermaids can't compete in school teams, you know? So Byron was like her crush, but they never really dated. They kind of just flirted a little bit, and she like danced with him at one of their school dances, but that was it. She didn't really get a boyfriend until season 2. There was this guy named Ash that she started to date. At first, she didn't really like him. She thought he was kind of like annoying and like a know-it-all. But then eventually she did warm up to him, and they started dating. And they did have some ups and downs because, you know, she didn't tell him that, you know, she was a mermaid at first, which obviously makes sense. If I were in their position, I don't know if or when I would tell my boyfriend I was a mermaid. Definitely not at the beginning. If I just met you yesterday, I'm not telling you such an important secret. But yeah, toward the end of season 2, she does eventually tell him that she's a mermaid. And so many people thought his reaction was funny because he was literally just like, cool. Like, a lot of people, I think, thought his reaction was funny, but also kind of like underwhelming, because it's like you think he would have had more questions about it. Like, yeah, I think even though that scene isn't bad, like, it is kind of funny that he just says cool. Like, you think he would have a little more to say than that. Like, at the same time, I do get it. Like, they were trying to wrap things up, so they didn't want to, I guess, make the scene too long and have it be like, now Emma's going to talk to Ash for 5 years about how long she's been a mermaid. So, like, I do get why they wanted to keep it short. But yeah, I think it would have been good to, like, maybe see him ask at least one question to show that, like, he is interested and doesn't just think it's cool, you know? Okay, so Ricky, as I mentioned early in the video, Ricky and Zane basically had an on and off relationship. So they started to date toward the second half of season 1, and in season 2 they also dated as well. And then in season 3, that's when things really started to get rocky. They ended up breaking up in season 3, and Zane did not take it well. He threatened to reveal her secret, that she's a mermaid, which that made me so mad when he said that, because I remember when they broke up, he was all like, he said something like, there's no guarantee I'll keep your secret. And I was like, you better keep the secret. Like, that made me so mad. Like, I get it. Breakups are tough. But it's like, if he had done that, if he had revealed that she was a mermaid to everyone, he would have ruined her life. And Dr. Deadman, she would have come back. because she was very interested in those girls. So she definitely would have come back to do tests on them, which they didn't want anyway, which is why they pretended that they weren't mermaids anymore so she would go away. But yeah, so their relationship, it had a lot of ups and downs, honestly. I mean, he had his moments where he could be like really sweet. Like the one episode where they try to find the treasure, Ricky ends up getting hurt. And like he jumps in the water to like pull her out of the water so she doesn't like drown. So like he did have some moments, and like he also called her friends for help because he was like, okay, I've got her. Like he was like, I've got her, but I don't know what to do. Like he was really freaking out, like because yeah, as soon as she like wasn't coming back up to the surface because she was hurt, he jumped in like right away and he got her and he like put her into his like little boat that he had. And so like then he called the friends and he was like, I've got her out of the water, she's not moving, like please help me. And so they helped him. Like I think that was probably like the best episode for Zane. Like that episode I think showed that Zane really can be a good guy and come in and help and save the day if he needs to. But I think unfortunately he had more bad moments than good moments, like the moment I mentioned with Will, how Will basically almost drowned and died because of him. So that one was really bad. Oh, and also Miss Chatham, the woman I mentioned, she was a mermaid like in the 50s and not anymore. Like she was a mermaid when she was young, and then when she got older, she ended up losing her powers. And so, but because she was a mermaid for so long, she had a lot of knowledge, which she passed on to the girls. So anyway, Miss Chatham, she lived in a boat, and I believe Zane caused her boat to sink. So that was also another bad thing he did. So it's like, not only did you almost kill someone, but you damaged property twice. Like you damaged Miss Chatham's boat, and then he also almost killed Mako Island. Although Mako Island technically isn't property. But the point is, Zane had issues. Yeah, and then also in season 3, he ended up kissing Sophie, which made Ricky really mad because like Ricky knew that Sophie liked Zane because she would just flirt with him, like with her right there. She didn't really seem to care. Yeah, like Ricky knew that Sophie liked Zane because Sophie would just like very obviously like openly flirt with him sometimes, and he would usually kind of like laugh or brush it off. But yeah, Zane did not handle that situation well. Like he did mention he had a girlfriend, but he should have been more firm with Sophie. He should have been like, Sophie, stop flirting with me, I'm not interested, I have a girlfriend. Because that's the problem. Like she just, she didn't really seem to care. Like I think if he had put his foot down and been more assertive with her, I think she would have stopped. But because he would kind of just laugh and joke about it, I don't feel like he really took it seriously. And I feel like that made her think, oh, like it's okay for me to flirt, he doesn't really seem to mind. And then eventually they kiss and Ricky's really mad about it, and he just kind of tries to brush it off and say it wasn't a big deal, didn't mean anything. And I don't think Ricky was buying it. And also, he wasn't the most supportive in season 3. Like, when the season started, he did open up a new business, and he named it after Ricky, which is, like, really sweet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that was very sweet of him. But at the same time, it's like, when the water was, like, attacking them and stuff, was he there to help? No. Like, in fact, there was an episode where he was getting mad at her, and he was like, you were so obsessed with, like, Mako Island and the water. I don't get it. Like, I want to be with the real you. And it's like, bro, your girlfriend is being attacked by water. Why are you not scared for her? Why are you not trying to help her? Like, if I had a girlfriend in that situation, I would be trying to help her. I wouldn't be like, oh, why do you care so much? Why can't we just go to the movies? Like, come on. Like, do you not get it? Like, do you not understand that water is attacking your girlfriend? Like, the water is hurting your girlfriend. She is not safe right now. She needs your help. But you never helped. He just did not get it. Like, Zane was, yeah, I mean, like I said, Zane had good moments, but I think, unfortunately, his bad moments tended to outshine the good moments. Like, even though he did save Ricky that one time, I feel like, him kissing Sophie, not helping her when the water was attacking her, and just, yeah, not really being there, like, when she needed him, and not really being honest about the kiss, you know, trying to brush it off and be like, oh, it wasn't a big deal. You know, I feel like that really created a lot of risks. And then not only that, but him threatening to expose her. That was also a big one. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Zayn was thinking. It's like, I don't know how people think they can act like that and then be like, why don't people like me? It's like, what do you think, idiot? All right, and then Cleo and Lewis. I think Cleo and Lewis probably had the most stable relationship, even though they did break up in season 2. So basically, toward the end of season 1, they started dating. And then toward the beginning of season 2, they ended up breaking up because Cleo, frankly, just felt a little smothered by Lewis. Like, Lewis was really sweet. He was a sweet boyfriend, but sometimes he did not leave her alone. Like, sometimes she just wanted to kind of have some alone time to herself, especially when she got her new powers and she was trying to deal with it. Like, he was trying to help so much and he was trying to fix it, and she kind of got mad and she was like, you can't fix this, Lewis. And it's like, exactly. Like, I do commend Lewis for trying to be there and be supportive and not just be like MIA, but at the same time it was like he was smothering her. Like, that's why they ended up breaking up, because he was just like, I don't want to say he cared too much, but it was almost like, maybe not love bombing, but I think he just needed to give her some more space. Like, let her deal with this on her own. Stop trying to be the savior and save her and fix everything, because you can't fix and save everything. But I think he did get better with that over time. Like, I think once they did have their space and, you know, you know, he ended up dating Charlotte and then they broke up and they got back together. I think they were in a much better place, because I think he kind of understood now, like, what he should do as a boyfriend and how he should act, and that, you know, even though I want to love you and support you, I still do need to listen to you and give you space when you ask for it, and not just kind of smother you and be there all the time. So I think their relationship was the best, because they did have ups and downs, and I think they both did grow and learn a lot from each other. So I think their relationship was the best, because it was like the healthiest, obviously. And then, like I said, like, I think they both learned from each other, like, how to really kind of listen and work together and not just, you know, kind of ignore the other person and do what you want. Because, yeah, that is part of relationships. You have to listen to the other person. Like, relationships are not all about you, it's about the other person too. So I think in season 3, their relationship was better, because, like, even though they did work together on things, they still did kind of have time to themselves, and they did kind of do things on their own as well. So it wasn't like they were attached at the hip, which I think was really good. Like, okay, so a good example of them doing their own thing. So, like, in season 3, Cleo became a little more studious, like with her schoolwork, and then also she was trying to figure out, like, why is the water attacking us? And then something Lewis was doing on his own was being in the band. So, like, he now had a hobby, he now had something to do. So I think that's a good example of, like, how they, you know, they still work together, because he would help her from time to time, like go to Mako Island and try to figure out what's going on. But he also had his separate thing going, like, for him, like the band. So she would watch him perform and she would support that. But again, they still, you know, like, they had their own lives and they did things on their own, but they came together when they needed to. So I think that's why their relationship was the best. And they had such good chemistry too. Okay, so now to sum it all up, I'm going to say why I think the show has still kind of stood the test of time now, and why people still really love it. Okay, so I'd say one of the reasons is I think the cast. I think the cast does a really good job of, like, you know, capturing, you know, kind of like the magic of the show, like, you know, being friends with this, like, incredible life, like being mermaids, getting to, you know, explore the ocean and all of its wonder and everything. And, like, I think all of the girls together as friends, like, it's believable. Like, you believe that they like each other and are close. Like, it doesn't feel fake, it doesn't feel forced or anything. In the first season, it is a little more awkward, like, the friendship that they have, because Ricky is, like, a new student. So, like, in the beginning of the first episode, they'd mentioned that Ricky, she's only been here for, like, a few weeks. Like, she basically just moved there, so she's new. So, like, Emma and Cleo are kind of like acquaintances, like they know each other, they're friends, I guess, but they're not that close. And Ricky's like the new girl, so she kind of doesn't really know everyone that well yet. So, you know, as the show progresses, they all get very close. So yeah, I think that's probably like the best part of the show. Besides, you know, the whole mermaid magic is just them, you know, all, you know, really sticking up for each other, helping each other, supporting each other. Because, like, they do go through ups and downs in the show. Like, in season 2, Cleo's parents are divorced. So, that's really hard for her. And, like, her friends and Lewis, they help her through that. Like, I think there are a few scenes where the girls say something like, if you want to talk about it, we're here and stuff. So, like, I think, you know, that's one of the best parts of the show is, like, even though they did have the fantasy elements, they did have real things like divorce and, you know, moving away from your family and things like that. And I think that's why the show still holds up really well, because they do have a mix of like real life topics as well as, you know, the fantasy of the mermaid magic. Okay, and then some other kind of, I guess, realistic sort of background things. So, okay, so in season 2, we learn that Ricky and her dad are not doing well financially. So she almost moves, but the girls help her. So Ricky basically, with Zane's help, they end up finding, well, the other girls help too. So basically, Ricky, Emma, and Cleo, they all help to find this like rare treasure. But at first, Cleo and Emma don't know that it's like a prize, like that if they find it, they'll get money. So yeah, Ricky lied to them about that because she was kind of ashamed of her financial background. So she lied about it because she wanted to find it and then use the money so she and her dad don't have to move. So at first the girls are mad about it because it's like, why did you lie? But then when she explains it, like they eventually like forgive her. And I think Ricky's storyline is probably like one of the most realistic, especially with everything going on now. Financial instability is something a lot of families deal with, especially with everything going on. So many people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are not getting paid as much as they used to with everything happening. So yeah, I would say her storyline with that was pretty realistic, because there are a lot of people who struggle with financial instability. And then yeah, also she lives in a single parent home. It is just Ricky and her father. Her mother is never mentioned really. I think, well, actually they may have mentioned her once, but I don't really remember. I think they either didn't mention her at all, or they might have mentioned something about her leaving when she was young, so I'm really not sure. Comment down below if you remember what happened to Ricky's mom, like if they mentioned it or not. Okay, and so with Cleo, like her parents go through the divorce, so that's really tough for her. Like she misses her mom being around, and her sister, her sister's name is Kim, so Kim and Cleo end up fighting quite a bit throughout the series, and I think they start fighting more after the divorce, which makes sense because I think they're both really upset about what happened, and, you know, they didn't have any control over it. Emma, I feel like she didn't really have that many struggles compared to the girls. I'm pretty sure her family was rich, so I feel like she was definitely in like a different position than them. I guess probably the biggest struggle she had with her family was lying about being a mermaid, because I do think sometimes her parents did feel like she was hiding something. So that was probably her biggest struggle, just her parents being like, you're hiding something, and her just kind of being like, no, I'm not. So yeah, I feel like she had it pretty easy compared to the other girls. And then with Bella, we didn't really learn that much about Bella's family. Like, we never see her family at all in the show. It's literally just Bella. We don't see any siblings, any family from her. She just only talks about her family like a few times, mentioning that they moved around a lot. So that's really all we know about Bella's family. They moved around a lot. All right. And then and then also with Lewis, we don't know about his family either. They never mention his family or show his family. Okay, so another character that I guess, yeah, I would say another character that sort of has some realistic kind of family drama is like Zane and his father. So Zane's father kind of doesn't really like him. He's one of those parents where it's like he's not really into what his child is into. Like Zayn and his dad both have different interests. So I'd say because of that, they're not really that close. They don't really have a lot in common. Like something I remember Zayn's dad saying to him a lot was like, stop wasting your time, do things that were more useful. And like his dad was kind of right when he said that sometimes, because I remember there was a scene where Zayn was just laying around in their pool, because Zayn is very rich, in case I didn't mention that. So Zayn basically like lives in a mansion with a pool. So there was one scene where he's like literally just laying around in a pool, and his dad's like, do something useful for a change. So I'm not saying it was right for Zayn's dad to always be rude to him, but at the same time, I do kind of get where he was coming from. Like, when he, in that scene particularly, because yeah, Zayn was being lazy in that scene. Zayn wasn't doing anything. So I don't blame him for being like, come on, be productive, son, do something. But yeah, I think his story with line with his dad is realistic, because I do think now there do seem to be more kids who kind of do have a bit of a gap with their parents. Like, if like, I'll put it this way, like if you have a big age gap with your parents, I think it can be easy for you guys to maybe not feel close. Like you're close, but you're not close, if that makes sense. So what I mean is, since you both are from like different eras, I feel like it can be easy for you to have like different interests, and because you don't have the same interests, you might not have as much in common. So then even though you do love your mom and dad, you may not feel as close to them because you can't bond over the same things. So that can create a rift. And I think that's kind of what Zayn's issue was with his dad, is that they didn't really have a lot in common. You know, they had different things that they liked and believed in and stood for. So I think that definitely caused tension in their relationship. And that's why I think Zayn's father did sometimes lash out at him, which I don't think was right at all. I don't think it's right to lash out at your kids. But yeah, I would say that's pretty realistic, like the whole kind of generation gap thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great day. Bye!